Well, hello there everyone, welcome back to some more Suzerain Kingdom of Rizia, where we are just back from a uh, very productive meeting in Morella, and apparently we have a call, or something's happening. I took my first class seat in the plane that had been chartered for my return flight from Morella. Looking outside of the window, I could see Arno and the mountains. The future of our relationship with Morella and the MITZ was in my head. I took a look at the papers in front of me. I cannot afford. I'm banking on our energy fixing itself in the very near future, but -1 budget for pipeline, -3 energy per turn, for +2 budget per turn. Okay, do it. Yes, I'm sure about my decision. I reviewed the agreement once more before signing it. The pilot announced that our descent into Port Drazon had begun. I fastened my seatbelts. Hey, Dirdia AN request Dirdia AN support. Delegation to Dirdia to garner support for Supreme Wise Men, leveraging Dirdia's influence within the AN, potentially swaying the outcome of the Andor arbitration. Sure, we have the authority, so let's send a large delegation. And is that all that we have? Yes. Okay, follow up on the MITZ Morella negotiations. Not long after my return with Morella, Elena and Lorento requested a meeting with me. Prime Minister Sultana's ministers had sent the feedback following our MITZ negotiations. The future of the trade zone now hung in balance. We convened in the council chambers. My councillors greeted me with smiles on their faces. Your Majesty, I hope you're rested from your trip. Sure, I've slept wonderfully since my return. Finishing those negotiations was a real load off my back. The two of them glanced at each other. Elena cleared her throat. Actually, Your Majesty, we still have some housekeeping to do in that regard. Lorento shuffled through some documents. The Morella Foreign Ministry has completed their review of our draft proposal for the nationalized MITZ. Unfortunately, they find our offer insufficient. They ask that we agree to one more of their demands. Ms. Sultana mentioned in your meeting. I expected as much. My original offer wasn't exactly generous. I thought it was fair, Your Majesty, but let's have a look at Morella's remaining demands. We currently lack the treasury funds to pay for the pollution rehabilitation Miss Sultana is asking for, but we can easily come up with the money by selling off some of our energy. Prime Minister Sultana's request to speak with Supreme Wise Men Asmal on her behalf is an unusual one. The Durdian leader does not approve of our treatment of Balkanists in Rizia. Trying to convince him of anything will be an uphill battle. But it's your decision, Your Majesty. Should we make additional concessions or agree on another share agreement? I'm willing to make more concessions. Elena raised her pen to begin taking notes. Yes, Your Majesty? It's gonna cost 2 energy. This is expensive. We will pay the pollution reparations Morella is asking for. Lena made a note of what I'd said. Perfect, Lorento. I'll assume you'll notify Prime Minister Sultana at once. Absolutely, Miss Werner. Barring any unexpected unpleasantness, we can expect both Morella and Valgsland to support this arrangement at the next board meeting. It will be 3 against 1. I confess I'm not looking forward to Prime Minister Arvoez's reaction. He would have done the same to us, I'm sure. Lorento still looked troubled. He's right, Lorento. Rizia and Lesbia were never going to be on the same side. I suppose not. While we have you here, a word on Palais. He nodded at Elena. Right, yes, the arguments are still being presented in our arbitration case. Of course, Lesbia's support of Palais counts for a lot, but We've received a number of statements in our favor from neighbors and other AN members. Rumberg and the rest of Grace, of course, and surprisingly Valsland. Sure, Valsland's only supporting us out of self-interest. If Palais wins its own island's economic zones, we'll be in danger. Still, their backing is extremely valuable. If our agreement with Morella proceeds as planned, we may earn their support, though our neighbor has little clout with the AN on its own. If President Smolak was serious about wanting to renew ties between our countries, he will speak in our favor. As for Durdia Supreme, Wiseman Asmal does not hate us, but nor does he have a reason to stick his neck out for us. Anything else we can do to sway the vote in our favor? Not at this point, Your Majesty. There's not much we can do but wait for the results. We've gone long past our allotted time. Why don't we call it a day? I would happily keep working, but for your sake, let's adjourn. The three of us wrapped up our meetings and went our separate ways. They have actual jobs to perform. Sultana promises MITZ agreement support. Construction begins on Rizia Morella energy pipeline. Arafeld rehabilitation begins in earnest. Valksland sends naval aid. Okay. Assault on Rizian citizen by Sordish tourists. Accused of brutally assaulting his Rizian citizens. This event has sparked heated debate across the nation. Public outrage demands justice. Obviously, we're gonna bring Sordish tourists to justice in Rizia. They're not above the law. I would like, however, to see how long until I get the freaking hydroelectric dam. I need money and I need energy. Okay, visit to the Esquiri gas fields. Please be good news. I had invited Vina on a yacht trip from Topay out with the view of the Equiri gas field. After several decades of operation, it was to be decommissioned and turned into a marine reserve. I was curious about the project, and it had been a long time since my daughter and I had talked. The Rizania was anchored a few hundred meters offshore. I stood on the aft deck, waiting Vina's arrival. Claiming she was tired of being hounded by the press, she'd asked to take a dinghy incognito from a nearby port. As the small craft pulled up alongside my yacht, I realized my daughter wasn't alone. Of course not. Of course that's why she didn't want to... she wanted to take a dinghy. She secured the boat and climbed out to join me on the deck, followed by Minus Hazon. Hello, Father. Yes, greetings, Your Majesty. Might have been nice to let me know you were bringing your boyfriend. Minus bowed. The two of them regarded me nervously. Sure. Relax, Mr. Sazan. I know coming here wasn't your idea. He broke into a smile. Error is a hard woman to say no to, but you know that more than I do. I wanted a chance for the three of us to speak in private out of the way of the press. Minus cleared his throat. There are certain conversations regarding Rizia's direction that have yet to be followed up on. Good idea, we three have a lot to talk about. Yes, we do. The yacht pulled up anchor and we began our journey out to the Equiri fields. As we ascended to the upper deck, I noted the Rizania's shabby state of repairs. The paint was peeling in places, and a few of the fixtures was rusted. She's beginning to show her age, but she's a fine vessel. She looks beautiful, Your Majesty. Keep too polite. The Rizania hasn't been restored since before Mother died. But our country shouldn't have to pay for the upkeep of the king's luxury vessel, don't you think so, Mr. Sazon? Ah well, if the king sees the utility in maintaining such a craft, I would not dare to oppose him. We settled around a table of the upper deck. A server came around with an orange juice and light refreshments. I looked around. We were surrounded by open sea, with the gas field yet to come into view. So, Father, Your Majesty, They looked at each other and laughed. Spit it out, you two. Manus nodded at my daughter. Well, Father, I don't think it's a secret the two of us connected in Salavis. We've been corresponding since then, and speaking on the phone, we've been when we've had time. I confess I withheld my feelings at first, fearing reprisal from the king, yet the more we spoke and wrote, the more I realized what a fool I've been to walk away from such a beautiful, inspiring woman. Vina blushed furiously. We both know better than to rush into marriage, but it is our hope that you will give your blessing to our relationship. You don't need my blessing. Vina is a grown woman, and her romantic life is none of my business. Vina's eyes sparkled. Thank you, Father. Of course I see it the same way, but it means a lot to hear it from you. When you truly love someone, not even the king can stand in your way. I know what it's like. Vina and Manus looked at each other excitedly. Thank you, Father. Not that we needed your approval, but this makes everything easier. They embraced tightly. A content silence descended. After a while, faint industrial noises began puncturing the quiet. We were nearing the Equerry field. But I'm going to the bow to have a closer look. You may join if you wish. Or you can just celebrate. Manus and Vida nodded to each other, then got up from their seats and walked with me to the ship's bow. The decommissioning of the gas field was still underway. Yellow-vested construction workers swarmed up over the metal, drilling rigs, uncoupling cables, and dismantling pipelines. We've got to win that arbitration case now. There's still the Spina hydroelectric dam, which my family thanks you for, Your Majesty. Greater energy independence is a win for us all, Mr. Sazon. Yes, both my house and the RPP are happy to see Rizia make progress on that front. And speaking of progress, I've been doing some thinking since our conversation in Salabis. We both have. My house would be happy to help you achieve the reforms you desire. So am I. All three of us want the same thing, Father. Yes, Rizia ruled by the common people, not the nobility. They both nodded. We both believe that this can be accomplished without fundamentally disrupting Rizia's societal status. Yes, the royal family should guide Rizians through the transition, not abandon them to it. I thought for a second you two were going to start advocating for a revolution. We talked about it, but look at what's going on around us. Rizia needs change, but we also need stability. We had reached the far edge of the gas field. The yacht creaked a little as it began to turn around. Here's what we're thinking, Your Majesty. As long as the Rizian National Coalition holds the delegate majority, they will oppose our attempts at reform. Yes, you can override their objections, but there is the chance that your Grand Vizier will use that as justification to oust you from the throne. He rested his elbows on the ship's railing. On the other hand, if the Rizian People's Party were in power, you would have a much easier time of it. And, as you know, there's an election coming up. I thought the election had already happened. You want to rig an election? That doesn't sound like you. The system is already rigged. I want you to unrig it. Listen, the makeup of the House of Delegates is determined by the outcome of the provincial elections, right? But as long as the province's ruling nobles hold the power to appoint half of the councillors themselves, overriding the people's wishes, the monarchists and the RNC will always have an unfair advantage, even not in agreement. Take away that power, and the House of Delegates will truly be a parliament of the people. Sure. And what if it backfires? What if the RNC is what the people really want? There's only one way to find out. Just imagine, Father, haven't you always wanted to know what everyone really thinks of us? Uh, sure. Of course, I have all along believed that the king should be on the same level as his subjects, not stand head and shoulders above them. Exactly. Only when the Rizian royalty becomes part of the ordinary Rizian society can we bring everyone together. I understand that it takes time and effort to pass a decree of this magnitude, but with a big push now, you can implement it in time for the next election. Sure. I'll make it a priority. It's time for Rizia to raise its voice. Minos and Vina looked at each other excitedly. Thank you, Your Majesty. I've got the proposal written up already. I'll make sure it reaches you. Sure. You better not let me down. The stakes are too high for all of us. I know. I turned my gaze forward. The coast of Topay was starting to come into view. Our first outing as a couple. I hope you're ready for it. Of course, everyone will accept you. You're young, beautiful nobles. Not that the noble part should mean anything. He's right, love. We're both too pretty for Rizia to resist. He slipped his arm around Vina's waist. Together they looked out at the approaching horizon. I allowed them a moment of privacy and retreated to the cabin to prepare for our arrival. Okay, Royal Yacht Restoration. Ah, I can't justify the money. Sell it. I can't justify spending all that money. Okay, let's see what happens when I go into the negative on the... Okay, what can I spend that money... What can I spend that one budget on? Nothing. Okay. Venus officially confirmed. Rizia and Morella relations improve. Rizia chooses justice over diplomacy in Valencourt incidents. Anrika emerges buffer zone, and Rizia and Morella agree on pollution reparations. Okay, next turn. On Shores of Gold. Okay. We didn't go negative. Okay, we finally have the freaking electric dam. Awesome. Okay, millions of reasons right to the poles. Hydroelectric dam powers up. Thank fuck. We're finally energy positive. Vendors of miners enter new pit. Arc Sanctuary of Plavo reopens after restorations. Okay, and the other one's still waiting for timber. Okay, sure, we need to invest in infrastructure. But we'll leave that to the end of the turn when we actually have the the money to spend. Um, I I don't think it's worth spending one budget. So our image is sufficient. Vendonism requests expeditionary forces in forces of a war. Um, it's not. Let's send volunteers. Let's not get directly involved. Okay, we have a meeting with the Royal Council. Vin and I walked into the council chambers. The councillors were already seated and waiting for us. As Titus closed the door behind us, the council members all stood up and bowed in respect. Good day, everyone. I hope there's nothing too crazy to worry about today, he says, knowing there's probably going to be. Councilors made an effort to laugh at my comment. Your Majesty, Your Highness, before we begin in earnest, we must acknowledge the results of the recent House of Delegates election. He had a dour look on his face. In historic first for our kingdom, the Rizian People's Party won the majority of seats. Excellent. By unanimous vote, Mina Sazon was named House Speaker. Vina made no effort to hide her joy. This shows that the public are hungry for a change in our kingdom's direction. We should listen to what they have to say. Should we? His expression turned quizzical. I wouldn't be surprised if House Sazon had a hand in manipulating the voting result. And I am not certain the votes of the foreigners who flocked to the polls should even be counted as legitimate. Give the new delegates a chance, Your Grace. Their ideas could invigorate all of Rizia, if they don't destroy it first. In other news, he gestured at Elena. Miss Werner has some important reports to share about our current energy situation. I'll let her speak. Thank you, Your Grace. I'll start with an overview of our energy situation. Our entire energy stockpile has been exhausted. We currently have no extra energy to spare. Everything is working to its limit, and the situation can become alarming. I mean, we fixed it. Ish. Luckily, we're still producing enough energy to meet our demands and stay above the balance. She placed a stack of papers on the table, but there's a problem. Our current projection for the future doesn't look good. Based on our current deals and promises, including our projected energy production, we won't be able to meet the demands of our industries. I have to underline the significance of this. If we cannot find new sources of energy, we will not be able to meet the demands of our industries and our international partners at the same time. Okay, we have to deal with the energy problem immediately. What are your suggestions? The only potential new energy source on the horizon is the Aureus gas field. I believe Mr. Escobel has some news to share about that. Lorento nodded. Okay, what is the current projection for our future energy production? Fortunately, at the moment our energy demands are being met, but unfortunately we don't have any ongoing projects or deals that will result in more energy output. Since there are no active projects, our prediction is that our energy output will stay stagnant in the future. There is of course the disputed Aureus gas field. The predicted gas output from that field is of immense value, but with our current situation we won't be able to reap much benefits. Is the predicted gas output from the Aureus enough to support our energy demands? Even half of that field would grant us immense relief from our energy woes, but we can get into the details of that in a second. I believe Mr. Escobar has some news from the AN. You have any other questions, Your Majesty? Thank you, Miss Werner. I have enough information. Of course, Your Majesty. She bowed in respect. We also have some news from Mr. Escobar regarding Palais and the Aureus gas field. Your Majesty, the result from the AN Arbitration Committee has just come in. The vote's outcome was influenced by a number of nations. Prime Minister Alma Sultan of Morella used her legal background to make a convincing argument on our behalf. Yorga Azmal of Dordia stated that the field belonged to us by divine right. In the wake of our country's new agreement, Velen was very supportive of our claim. Queen Beatrice made a personal appearance at the AN to plead our case. Chancellor Hegel of Waldesland made an especially heartfelt plea to uphold the original interpretation of Andor without mentioning Rizia by name. Support by Palais came mostly from Lesbia and other ATO nations, of course. Overall, we gained just enough international sympathy to overcome ATO's clout with the AN and have the edge in the proceedings. Very fortunately, the arbitration committee rejected Palais' argument about Kalekabi's not having the same maritime radius as mainline Rizia, acknowledging our right to the Arius gas field. Needless to say, the resolution always also requires us to pull back our navy from blocking the field. Of course. They ruled that both Palais and Rizia are subjects to the same international maritime laws, and that the overlap in maritime borders gives both countries equal rights to the field. Sure. Positive and interesting news indeed. I honestly didn't expect Old Man Hegel to go that far and aid us in the committee resolution. I don't think he was aiding us, Your Majesty. The current maritime laws work in Waldesland's favor. Their large number of islands in the Marquian Sea provide them with an enormous exclusive economic zone. That is correct. Agreeing with the Pelagian interpretation would have opened the discussion for the re-evaluation of the Volgish maritime borders as well. Regardless, it's great that it worked out in our favor. Indeed. Sure. How is that even a resolution? It is not, Your Majesty. I still don't see this as an entirely positive outcome. The State ruled in our favor. The AN ruled that Palais didn't have the right to exploit the resources on their own without Rizia's cooperation. As a result, they agreed to divide the gas field in half, granting both of our countries an equal share. The energy coming from that field will be incredibly useful. I'm glad that we can finally put this dispute behind us. I knew the AN would see reason. I'm happy it worked out in our favor. Let's hope that Duke Reinhardt has now learned his place. Regardless, I'm pleased of the outcome for now. That settles it then. If there are no other comments on this topic, we can move on. I believe it's time to wrap this up. Everyone stood up and bowed. Vina and I stood up and left the chambers. Father, do you believe in proper cooperation with the Pelagians? I'd like to believe so, Vina. Me too, and I'm willing to do my part in achieving cooperation, even if ever I'm needed. I know you do, Vina. Thank you. All right. We walked together to the royal quarters of the palace. Okay, and that is going to be left for next episode. Let us check out what we have. Morella extends solidarity. Kirut congratulates Rizia on successful elections. RPP takes the win. AN grants Rizia half of Aria's gas field. Smolak condemns Arcasian soldiers in Lesbia. Disputed gas field should be shared. AN rules. Okay, gas field isn't showing up yet. What can we do? Okay, we need the Sixth Authority to go through for the reform, which was what we talked with the Sazon. We cannot afford to construct anything at the moment. Okay, legalizing drugs. Anything that will give me budget. Okay, +1 budget for turn is not that much. Okay, let's leave it be for now. As I was saying, that will be it for this episode. Thank you all very much for watching. As always, I have been Pope. Please do remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all next time.